So I think
Cool.
just like becoming really knowledgeable about the area and the history and all the ins and outs of all the various functions of our council is really enjoyable to me, alongside actually helping people, of course, but that's my little like selfish knowledge collection nerdy thing.
Hi everyone, my name is Meha and I am the Future Makers host for this podcast. On today's episode, I have with me Bonnie. So Bonnie, would you like to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, hi Meha, thanks for having me. My name is Bonnie Harvey. I am the youngest female councillor ever elected to Northern Beaches Council. I'm a member of the Greens Party and I'm a politics nerd.
Great. I think because you are one of the youngest councillors and basically how we met through LGNSW at the annual conference. I was really inspired to see someone really fairly young as a councillor. So I think a lot of us have the same question, like what was your educational and career background and how did you get to become a councillor for Northern Beaches?
Yeah, so I think since I was very young, I've been very interested in social issues and politics, and that led me starting my degree at Sydney University, which is a double degree in politics, international relations and socio-legal studies, in the advanced studies stream there. And yeah, I really held off on like joining a party, and I sort of played around with the different parties and also volunteered with some independents and stuff. And then I just landed in the Greens and felt like that was the right space for me. And the local groups around me are very encouraging of young people to get involved and throw their hat in the ring. And I said, well, why don't I run as the candidate for the local government election? And they were like, sure. And then I got up and now I'm in. And my good friend Ethan, who's also a member of Northern Beaches Greens, he also got elected at the age 21. So he's our youngest ever councillor. So the two of us are sort of like a bit of a power duo.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's really inspiring to hear. I think again, like, what is your sort of role and what are your main responsibilities as a councillor?
I think the answer to that question would really depend on what kind of councillor you are. At the bare minimum, you're going to briefings, going to meetings, reading all your business papers. But on top of that, if you're like myself, you're going to go to a lot of community events. You're going to take a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and have a lot of correspondence with residents who have their own issues or like ongoing campaigns and things that they want assistance with. So for example, I'm helping some residents right now create a bit of a movement to protest against a bush clearing in my area. And it's actually not a local government issue, it's a state government issue. But my local Greens group and my local Greens councillors have support networks and mechanisms that we can use to help them with that. So it's sort of like make of it what you will. Like if a resident called me and said, oh, I'm having this thing with this ongoing issue of flooding in my area, I could just pass it on to council staff and say, you know, can you help this resident? But I like to call that resident, I like to get to know them. Obviously you can't do that with every single person, so I look for the connections that I think we're going to be able to actually create something productive together, which very much probably depends on the tone with which the resident reaches out. So it's such a wide range of responsibilities. You can do as much as you like, no one's going to stop you. And I'm also very active on my social media and trying to stay in contact with the wider population and let them know what council's doing. So yeah, it can be very time consuming.
No, of course. And I think because you have such varying responsibilities, for the campaign that you're doing right now, can you sort of describe maybe what a typical day in a life looks like for you?
Oh, it's so hard. So something I've had to do early on was sit myself down and say, this will take up all of your time if you let it, because I'm still trying to finish my university degree and I have my own tutoring business as well. So I had to pretty early on say, okay, I will be working 3 days a week outside of that, you will get my auto reply, my auto text back, yada yada. So for the days that I am working, it depends. 2 days I go into the council chambers. Today is one of those days, and I'll go to the gym in the morning. I will read through my emails at home. I probably get 20 to 30 emails a day. So just always try and chip away at those and don't let them build up. Go into the council chambers, maybe have a few meetings with staff, with residents, make some social media content. So like usually that's a fun part of my day. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be silly and make a TikTok now and let off some steam. And then on Tuesdays, like today, we have a council briefing, which goes from 6 to 8:30. So it's a pretty full day for me when I am working.
Mm-hmm. No, it seems like you really enjoy the role that you're in. Is there something rewarding or enjoyable you like to work as a councillor?
I'm honestly really enjoying, God, I feel like such a nerd. Like there's such a wide array of data sets to be collected, because councils do so many things, like from roads to tree removal, from wildlife protections to graffiti task force to, there's like so many little areas of nuance, and all of them are contentious in their own way. So I guess I'm just really enjoying the learning curve of being in such a vast organization and being on the board of directors of that organization and having to upskill and just become an expert on these things really quickly. And then, I go around with my friends, I'm like, oh, did you know Manly Town Hall, these renovations? And they're like, Bonnie, no one cares about that. And I'm like, well, I do, it's exciting. So I think just like becoming really knowledgeable about the area and the history and all the ins and outs of all the various functions of our council is really enjoyable to me, alongside actually helping people, of course, but that's my little like selfish knowledge collection nerdy thing.
Oh, that's really great to hear that you really, enjoy the little histories and stuff. And I think that's really important to really enjoy your work that you do. Has there been any specific projects or initiatives that you're really proud of for Northern Beaches Council?
There's something that I am very excited about, which seems to be coinciding with my term of council in a really fortunate way, because I campaigned on a few key sort of issues and areas when I was running for election, and one of them was affirming the role of arts in our economy, because I myself have dabbled in the arts, I'm a musician, and I understand the power of performance and entertainment to bring people together, but also to get people to spend money and reinvest in their local areas. And I think that's often overlooked, particularly because Manly is such an entertainment hub a nightlife hub where people are traveling pretty far and, from across the world to come to Manly and visit it. So I was really passionate about sort of expanding what that experience looks like for our tourists and for our residents. And we've recently had a motion come through council where we could decide to apply for funding for a grant to do acoustic testing in Manly, so testing volumes, volume controls of different venues and things like that, in hopes to potentially establish a special entertainment precinct trial. Now, to my knowledge, there's only one other special entertainment precinct in Sydney, and that is Newtown. So you have special allowances for businesses in terms of opening hours, and even I think it's like liquor regulation prices and things like that, so it can be more profitable if they supply live music. So it's a really exciting thing, depending on if we get the grant for the acoustic testing, but I think we will. If that can come through and we can do a trial of that, it fits really well with my vision of what I wanted to explore for Manly. And I actually put up an amendment at that meeting to say, let's create a working group of local entertainers, businesses, industry relevant people, and key residents who've been really involved with saying we need to reinvigorate Manly, and let's make it so that if this happens, it's done holistically in an entertainment centric way, instead of just exacerbating a pre-existing culture of nightlife and gambling. Drinking and gambling, to be honest.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I mean, how would you sort of describe maybe the workplace culture at Northern Beaches?
I would say it's very positive. We have a very different composition in our council than what we've had previously. We have primarily independents, Greens, all independents and Greens actually. So we've found it to be for the most part, very cooperative, very positive. I found your Northern Beaches Independence team to be very welcoming, particularly to myself and Ethan as young people, saying it's fantastic to actually have young councillors. Quite a few of them actually mentioned it in our inauguration speeches. They said it's so great to have young people here. So I truly have felt welcomed and supported as a young person in the workplace without being sort of patronised or infantilised, which has been really nice. The staff are just amazing. We have some very, very key office ladies who I often call up and have long conversations with about, if I wanted to do this, how would I do that? And they really take care of me, and they really just want to help us do our best jobs as the directors and get the most out of the role for the community.
So you mentioned, I mean, you feel really supported, especially being a young councillor within your team. What advice would you give someone considering a career as a councillor, especially a young councillor in local government?
I would say, while I feel very supported by staff, I am very lucky to have the support of other councillors who aren't necessarily from within the Greens. I have heard firsthand that that's not the experience for other people on different councils. I would just say, this is my sort of word of warning, not the most exciting advice, but I would say, especially if you're going in as a lone political actor, like we have Greens and other councils who sit as the only Green on that council, it's significantly more work and more emotional labour to be sitting in that council chamber by yourself. I would have a very, very different experience if I was the only Green on this council. But fortunately, I have 3 others and 1 other young person. So I think really look at what your support networks are in terms of a political party, an independent team around you, and recognise that there is such a breadth of knowledge that if you don't have that team, you're going to have to be all over it all by yourself to do the job effectively. Beyond that, though, I reckon just go for it.
No, absolutely. I think it's really inspiring to have young councillors such as yourself within council. And I think the last question is that, you mentioned you're working on so many different exciting projects like the music project. So what do you think young leaders can play in shaping the role of local government?
Let me think. I mean, there's so many things that young people have to contribute. We were just raised in a completely different way. We are digitally literate. We have been sort of awake to the horrors and the joys of the world since day one in our bedrooms, when we're 13. So I think we have a very different perspective on social issues, which is really valuable. But I would say what really excites me about being a young politician and what I hope to bring to the table and what I hope other young people who want to get involved in politics bring to the table is we need to reclaim this space and we need to make it exciting and accessible, because I understand so many people my age really don't engage or know what's happening, because it just seems like all these older people who they can't relate to talking about things that they don't understand. And that is very dangerous for our democracy. And so I hope that if people see me and feel my energy and feel my passion, they might not have any idea what I'm talking about, but maybe they'll be intrigued to learn a bit more and have a conversation with me and get involved, because at the end of the day, your vote is one of the most valuable things that you have. So you want to make sure that you're engaging and using that wisely.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that brings us to the end of this podcast. So thank you so much for joining us on our first episode for this podcast. We hope to see you back very, very soon.
Thank you, Miha. Bye.
Bye.